guys, it's Will and Sam again, and we're back with another 40k Batrep.
Another one.
Another one, yes. No, it's good. We're getting on a nice roll with putting some 8th Ed Batreps out there, trying out different armies against each other. What have you brought tonight?
Colt, because I think I'm finally getting there with what I want to do with them.
Genestealer Colt, yes.
Yeah.
I've seen your list, and it looks like there's a lot of models there.
There's a few.
Just a few. I'm bringing my Eldar, Biel Tan World, still trying to get how they're running in this edition. I think they feel very different than before, but yeah, still a force to be reckoned with, I think.
Oh, we'll see.
We will see. We're down here at 40k Gaming in Colchester, and yeah, we're going to run 2,000 points again, Maelstrom of War. Haven't rolled for mission yet, but should be a good game. Anyway, let's take a look at the armies. So here's my Biel Tan World list. We've got a Vanguard detachment and an Outrider detachment here. It's the same list as I used in my recent game against Sam's Necrons. So I've got my Farseer here, Singing Spear and Jet Bike, and then for this Outrider force I've got 5 fast attack choices. 2 units of 3 Jet Bikes with the Shuriken cannons, 2 units of 5 Warp Spiders, and for some reason the Exarch's at the back of one of them, and 1 unit of 6 Swooping Hawks. The Exarch there has the Sun Rifle because I think the blind effect could be quite cool. Then my Vanguard detachment, because I still don't own enough troops to do an outright a what's it called, a battalion. Got my Warlock with a Witchblade leading them, 10 Dire Avengers with an Exarch, 5 Wraithguard with the Wraith Cannons, 6 Fire Dragons with an Exarch, and 10 Striking Scorpions with an Exarch with a Scorpion's Claw. Then to transport these Aspect Warriors in, I've got a Falcon with a Bright Lance, a Wave Serpent with Shuriken Cannons and Underslung Shuriken Cannon, and a Wave Serpent with Bright Lances and Underslung Shuriken Cannon. So yeah, a nice little sword wind host there, and should be interesting to see how the Genestealer Colt fare against their old nemesis, the Eldar.
Right, here's my 2,000 points of Colt. 2 detachments, a battalion and a spearhead, so we'll start with a battalion. So I got a Primaris, standard kit, bone sword, needle pistol, raining claw, and my Patriarch, standard stuff, monstrous raining claws. He's a pretty beastly model now. He'll have the Might from Beyond special rule, giving +1 attack and strength for psychic. For the troops, we've got 20 neophytes with 2 mine lasers, 2 grenade launchers. First time we've run them as a big blob, so we'll see how that works. And then 20 acolytes, and the acolyte leader has a bone sword, and another 20 acolytes, bone sword and lash whip for that one. I do find these guys used to work well in 10s, now you have to really run them at 20s, so we'll see. 20 Genestealers, I did remember to bring them for once, so we know these guys are horrid. And then another 8 Genestealers with the extra Siren Talons, just because they got them modelled and there are 0 points cross upgrade. So yeah, we will see how they do. The fact that they came down 8 points is really nice. So that's my battalion. Then I've got a Spearhead. That's being started by a Magus. I can't really remember what his power's called. Patriarch has Might from Beyond, the Magus has one other, not Mind Control, because Will doesn't have anything really worth mind controlling. For compulsory, you have to have 3 heavies for this, so I've got 2 Leman Russ, both Exterminator Rotor Cannons on top, and 3 heavy bolters. Goliath Truck with a heavy stubber and clearance incinerator. Another Goliath Truck with clearance incinerator and heavy stubber. And then just 2 squads of 5 acolytes to go in those, with 1 demo charge, 4 hand flamers. Hand flamers are really good in this edition, so we will see how this does. On to deployment.
So we rolled up Spoils of War for the mission tonight. So this is the one where you can steal your opponent's Score Objective X cards and can't discard any Secure Objective X. Deployment is Search and Destroy, so it's table quarters, staying at least 9 inches away from the centre. So Sam's deployed these 4 vehicles, 2 Leman Russes, 2 Rock Grinders. In this Rock Grinder he has a squad of Acolytes with Hand Flamers, and in there he's got the Acolytes with Hand Flamers and his Magus. Everything else is in reserves. Majority of my army is deploying on the board, except the striking scorpions and swooping hawks ready to come on from reserve. I've tried to spread out to deny him places to come down in my deployment zone, but I am aware he could in theory appear behind my lines, but then I could just move away and cancel those units that deploy there out of the game. So I pushed my tanks forward because I think what he's got in his list is unlikely to be too much of a ranged threat to me. It's going to be up close that the damage gets done, so using them to kind of draw fire while my smaller, more squishy units take cover and just generally try to look a little less threatening. In this wave Serpent I've got the Dire Avengers and the what's he called, a Warlock, and he's got Conceal as his power. Wraithguard in there, Fire Dragons in there, and for my Farseer's powers I chose Guide and Doom and the Warlord trait that gives him a 6-up Feel No Pain. Anyway, now it's time for Sam to have a go at stealing the initiative if he wants to do that. You want to do that? Okay, here we go. No, he tried to use a D10 and it still didn't work. No, only a 4. Here we go with Eldar, turn 1. So the Biel Tan Eldar got the game underway, and our objectives were Supremacy, Scour the Skies and Overwhelming Firepower. With our manoeuvrability and the good positioning of the objectives for what I needed, Supremacy was a nice easy one, and I rolled a 5 for that, so that's worth 3 points right off the bat. But doing some damage was a bit tougher. The Leman Russ, that was the nearest large tank, was a little bit sort of out of position for a lot of my vehicles to target. I did manage to take 3 hull points from this wave Serpent, but I think next turn's going to be when I can start hurting the tanks, when my anti-tank units really get out of their transports. The wave Serpent here and the Falcon concentrated their fire on this rock grinder, as did this jet bike unit, but unfortunately, because of its rugged construction and some poor to wound rolls, only did about 5 wounds in total to it, so that rock grinder is still there, and still pretty good to go, to be honest. So not a great turn in terms of damage, but we've got into good positions and scored 3 points off the bat. So yeah, discarded Scour the Skies because there are no flyers in this list, and yeah, we go straight into Genestealer Colt, turn 1. Okay, so the first Genestealer turn felt like it took forever, with all these different units popping up everywhere, being rolled for and getting charges, which yeah, certainly pegged me back a bit. So if we go around the board, this unit of neophytes came up here, shot the jet bikes for no damage, but did kill one in combat. I killed one in retaliation as well. The aim of all his movement, though, was to try and get domination, which was the big card he had this turn, but he needed to pull off a lot of charges to do it. So this squad here had disembarked from the Nero rock grinder, and they tried to do some damage to the warp spiders with shooting, which didn't achieve a lot, but they did make it into combat, leaving me with just 2 warp spiders left and claiming that objective. Over here, all these units appeared over here, but luckily for me these guys didn't get the charge, but these guys did, wiping out my jet bikes and forcing them off that objective. And over here we had a unit of Genestealers and this unit of Acolytes turn up. Only the Acolytes made it into the wave Serpent, which had survived the shooting of the Leman Russ, and they did 11 wounds to it for none in return, so that wave Serpent is not in a good way, but it's okay. It's meant my Wraithguard has survived his Alpha Strike. Points wise, he did score Objective 2 and Objective 5, but was 1 away from domination, so that plus First Blood gives us 3-3 as we end the first Genestealer turn. So I started this turn very surrounded by Genestealers, and decided the best way was to pick a direction and just push that way, cutting down what I can and avoiding what I can't. Objectives wise, I needed to defend Objective 6, which was bang smack in the middle here, and I also had Overwhelming Firepower and Witch Hunter. So popped my Scorpions up over here, who shot and then attempted to charge these neophytes. They actually did 4 wounds with the shooting, but then failed the charge despite using a command point to get a reroll. So yeah, they are not charging them, but 4 wounds isn't bad, and they're in a relatively safe spot. He's got to either come to me or run away from my army. So yeah, not a great position for these neophytes, but they're cheap, expendable guys. In the middle, these warp spiders jumped from all the way over there down to here, and the Dire Avengers disembarked from the Wave Serpent. The Warlock also disembarked, tried to cast Conceal on this little gaggle of units in the middle here, and rolled a 6/6 and immediately sent himself to the warp. He's very well concealed within the warp. Fire Dragons also got out, and down here the Warp Spiders wiped out the small Genestealer unit holding that, freeing up the Dire Avengers to shoot at the far unit that got out of the Rock Grinder that used to be there. I say used to because the Fire Dragons had their way with it, deleted it without any trouble, and the Falcon was then free to get a shot off on the Magus, who had thought himself safe on the edge of the woods, but a Bright Lance shot later and he was proved otherwise. The explosion for the Rock Grinder was quite interesting. Didn't kill any of the guys inside, but killed 2 Warp Spiders who jumped over there from the other unit. They rolled about a 28 on their jump, so ended up all the way over here, and yeah, then died before they got to shoot thanks to the exploding Rock Grinder. Yeah, the Avengers then went for these guys, killed them. Over here, the Farseer, Jet Bikes and Wave Serpent tried to target this already damaged and empty Rock Grinder, but only did a couple of wounds to it. I then tried to charge it, but only the Jet Bikes made it in. They were really only meant to be my screening unit before the Farseer and the tank came in, but they both rolled double 1s for their charges, and I lost a Jet Bike on the way in, so that Rock Grinder is still on 1 hull point, but at least it's engaged. Finally, the almost dead Wave Serpent plucked its way out of combat, decided not to disembark this turn because I wasn't really close enough to my intended target, but I got out of combat at least, so they're going to have to recharge me next turn. And the Hawks came down over here and managed to land in a position where I was very close to the Primus, and then they were able to light him up with las rifle fire, and he had a really poor round of saves, to be fair to him. He just couldn't roll them saves and is gone. The Farseer has continued to be unimpressive psychically. He managed to get Guide on the Dire Avengers, but failed to do much with anything else. But that did score me overwhelming firepower for D3, which I rolled a 3 for, scoring me 2 points. And I've also scored Witch Hunter. So it's a nice little cluster of points I'm getting, although Sam's certainly still in a strong position, although he's certainly lost some numbers now. But anyway, here we go with Genestealer Cult, turn 2. So the second Genestealer turn was even more deadly than the first. Started off with blowing up that Falcon, no, Wave Serpent, not Falcon. It was fairly damaged, but it did take the fire of 2 Leman Russes to do it. Wraithguard got out, tried to get as far away from the Genestealers as possible, but it wasn't enough, and the Genestealers were able to charge me for the loss of 2 whole Wraithguard. The only plus side of that is at least, you know, they are still alive, so it's not the end of the world there. In the middle, though, these Genestealers came across so fast. I thought I had a turn before they were on me, but with their ability to run and charge, and then re-rolling that run move with a command point, they were able to hit my Warp Spiders, wipe them out, and worst of all, consolidate into my Dire Avengers, tiring them up for a turn. So, yeah, that's bad news. These guys didn't really get anywhere, but still a very threatening unit. And this unit of Acolytes charged my Swooping Hawks and wiped out all bar the Exarch, who had to use a command point to re-roll his morale check to stop him running. Down here, the Neophytes came round here to get to my Farseer, did 4 wounds of shooting and another 2 in combat to wipe him out for no casualties in return. So all in all, a very, very brutal turn. I've lost my Warlord, my Warp Spiders, a tank, and yeah, those Genestealers are probably the worst thing, tying up my Dire Avengers. Points-wise, Sam scored a couple of things. no prisoners and Kingslayer, and obviously also got Slay the Warlord. So things are looking bleak for the Eldar, but we're not over yet. So this turn I continued to pull my units back towards this end of the table. Even though I'd lose the opportunity to shoot, I decided it was the best plan to pull these Avengers out. At least means the Genestealers have to spend another turn getting through them. Wraithguard, however, can move out of combat and shoot, which they did. Tried to grab me Slay the Warlord by shooting this guy in the back, but a combination of a miss, his invuln save, and the ability to transfer wounds onto this squad meant that I only did 3 wounds to him in the end, which was not ideal, but it's a start, and they did grab me Secure Objective 1. My other objective was Psychological Warfare, and that was easy enough to do. The Scorpions charged out of cover, butchered most of these neophytes before the last few ran away, which grabbed me that. And over here the Fire Dragons advanced up into the woods using Battle Focus to shoot the Leman Russ, but some bad to wound rolls and just general bad luck meant only did about 4 hull points to it. Falcon tried to finish it off, but again had a pretty poor round of shooting. But the Wave Serpent did better. Its Serpent Shield wiped out the Rock Grinder, which then exploded, killing one or two surviving neophytes there, but also a couple of members of the Dire Avenger unit. So they're not in a great place, but I did score 2 points, so we keep the points ticking over, although Sam also scored 2 points because he's held Objective 6 for 2 rounds now with those Genestealers. So we're still on the back foot, but at least there are less targets on the board now. Here we go with Genestealer turn 3. So Sam's Genestealers are really starting to run away with it now. He had Objective 5, 5 and 1 this turn, all of which were easy enough to secure. These Acolytes and the Broodlord swarmed over here, killed almost all the Wraith Guards, and I don't mean Broodlord, I mean Patriarch. Killed almost all the Wraith Guard for no damage in return, and this little group of Genestealers lurked in there to grab 5. Other than that, these Acolytes finally wiped out the Swooping Hawk Exarch, and these guys rather predictably just went through the Dire Avengers like they were nothing. Fire Dragons had a really poor turn. Both Leman Russes fired at them and did about 4 wounds, but I failed all my saves despite having at least a 4+. So that was a little bit disappointing, to be honest, but they did pass the leadership. So as we head into the 4th Eldar turn, I have 1 Wraith Guard, 2 Fire Dragons, 2 tanks, and a unit of Striking Scorpions, and I am well behind on points. But we're always going to go down fighting. Here we go, Eldar turn 4. So these are the kind of objectives I could have really used earlier in the game. Secure 3, 2 and 4. 2 was too far away from anything. 4 was a nice easy grab with a Wave Serpent. And number 3, I had to fight that Leman Russ off it. So tried to advance my Fire Dragons up there and also line up a shot with the Falcon. But the Falcon really underperformed. I only did like one or 2 wounds with it, and then the Fire Dragons realised they didn't have enough firepower, just the 2 of them, to kill that one, so they went for that one, but failed to wound it. Yes, Fire Dragons failed to wound the Leman Russ. It is not good. Other than that, I decided to go ballsy with the Striking Scorpions. Well, they're either going to run away from the Genestealers or run towards them. So we ran towards them, and it was a case of mutually assured destruction. As you can see, once morale tests are all said and done, there's just 3 of the original 20 Genestealers left. And, yeah, the Striking Scorpions are all gone. Wraithguard's still alive, though. Plopped out of combat and tried to shoot the Genestealer, but Patriarch, but he passed his invuln save. So, yeah, still not going great. I did grab Objective 4, and I'm going to discard Objective 2, and we now go into the 4th Genestealer turn. One slight correction there, I can't discard Secure Objective 2 because of the mission type. So turn 4 was somewhat of a mopping up operation for the Genestealers by this point. So over here, this group of Genestealer Pure Strain wiped out the last Wraith Guard in combat. Patriarch tried to come down here and steal Objective 2 off me, which Sam was also holding a copy of, but didn't quite get enough of an advance. The Leman Russes turn their fire on the Fire Dragons, and yeah, wipe them out. Fire Dragon's not had a good game today. And these Genestealers just hovered on Objective 4 to score it for him, which, along with one of the other objective markers, Objective 6, meant that he got 2 points for objectives this turn. And yeah, I'm down to just my tanks. So fifth and probably final turn, here we go. So, in an attempt to score my new objective, Big Game Hunter, and also capture Objective 3, move both tanks over here to try and shoot the Leman Russ. Falcon fired first, Bright Lance and Pulse Laser did a grand total of nothing, and then naturally it was the underslung Shuriken Catapult that did some damage. Wave Serpent did a little bit of a few wounds with Shuriken Cannon, but none of them were rending, and it was all saved. So, yeah, completely lackluster turn there. Tanks seem to be able to take hits, but they don't seem to be able to dish them out very well at the moment. But anyway, on to the Genestealer 5th turn. Final Genestealer turn was nearly as uneventful. The Leman Russes tried to take out the Falcon but did minimal damage, and the Genestealers charged in and did 1 wound. We've decided to call it there, count up the points, and it's 19 points to the Genestealers and only 11 to the Eldar. So that is a good victory for you, Sam. Well done, mate. And we will see you guys in a moment for the post-game. Right, so started out pretty close there, but in the end, a really solid victory there for the Genestealers.
Yeah, finished like 20 to 11.
20 to 11, I think, yeah, or 19, something like that. But yeah, it was nasty, nasty Genestealers. The ability to have so many units pop off the charge so early is it's just brutal.
Yeah, well, I've got 14 units in my army, so I'm also obviously never going first.
No.
Which is the downside, but you know, it means I can have 7 in reserve, and I found with this edition, if you've got bigger units in bigger blobs, it works better.
Yeah, and although you've got a lot of units in the list, and your opponent's likely going first, they're not very able to alpha strike you because you can hang back, and particularly the Leman Russes are really tough.
Yeah, they don't die very easily. They're crap putting out damage wise.
Their damage output isn't what you'd like it to be, certainly, but they're a real tough nut to crack.
Yeah.
And I really focused on them with the Fire Dragons and the Falcon. I was originally planning to try and get the Wraith Guard over there, but you ambushed my tank and took it down.
Yeah, so, well, it's fact of, I know what your Eldar do. I've been reading the Eldar rules now, so I've got a better clue of what they do, and you know, that's game 21.
Sam
so
is becoming a very experienced gamer. He's sort of outstripping me a little bit on just how many games he can get to play. I feel like I'm learning stuff, but still not there yet. The Eldar, I think, need a bit of a redesign and a rebuild, but that's going to take some time. But
so that's another thing I've had time to do, is sit and work the list and work the list and work the list over and over and over again until it's the best it can be.
Yeah, at 2,000 points I'm very limited on options of my Eldar, because about the only models I wasn't running there were a unit of Dire Avengers who are a bit overcosted and another 3 jet bikes.
See, I'm wondering if we should bring the points back down, because 2,000, like, I've played a lot of the 1,000-point games now, because I played a 1K tournament recently, and I found in 1K, the games were really fun, they were quite quick, they were happy to play, and they never felt like a bit of a drag. I found with 2,000 points that we're playing, one of us by the end of the game is going, oh, come on, end already.
Yeah, it might be worth a try. I think I'd like to test the Marine Codex out, which will probably be out by the time you see this video, because I've got a bit of a backlog of vids at the moment, but isn't out yet where we're standing right now in time. But I'm really psyched for that. I want to get the Salamanders out, so maybe test them at 2k, but maybe drop down to 1,500, possibly before or after then.
So we will see. I'm looking forward to seeing the Marine Codex. Yeah. What they're going to do with chapter tactics.
Looks strong.
Hopefully what they do the same for the other army, so if they give one army really strong chapter tactics, hopefully they'll balance it throughout.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're going to do 10 codex in a year, surely they've got them already semi-written already.
Oh, almost certainly,
so
yeah.
Hopefully they won't be as bad as the codex creep as people will be expecting.
Well, we shall see. I think Codex Creep is, to an extent, part of their business model, but you know, they factor that in. But I think the Marine Codex can be really exciting because it should act as a model for what the other codexes are going to bring us. But that's then. So coming up, expect to see plenty of Salamanders and possibly some other Marines of some flavour on this channel very soon. But anyway, for now, congrats to Sam on another win. That's three in a row you've beat me on the channel on.
Is it? Fair
It
enough.
is, yeah. And we'll see you guys again soon.
Bye.
Bye.